Hello, this is Desiree Dubonnet, and a known transsexual little girl from Ohio. And I want to make a little movie here and overcome some of the ideas of transsexualism and present to you some of the history and some of the progression of thought about this. And I want to be able to say that there definitely is a choice. There is definitely a male brain, a female brain, and some males have female brains and some females have male brains. There definitely is a biological issue behind homosexuality and transsexualism, etc. That's undeniable. But still, it will come down to choice. Some people are left-handed, some people are right-handed. There's a cross-preference issue. There's also a cross-preference issue regarding sexuality, where there's certain people are hetero, certain people are homosexual. It turns out that this deviancy, or what we call deviancy, is about a 10% level of being left-handed, where most people are right-handed, and a 10% level of being something different in sexual desire versus most people, which are hetero. There's an undeniable factor here of a cross-preference that exists in certain people, about 1 out of 10. But still, there is a choice to be made, whether you act on that, whether you're comfortable acting on that. Basically, we have to understand that the mind is there and chooses these things. And maybe you might choose this for a temporary time. Maybe you might choose this for a weekend. Want to become the opposite sex for a weekend. Have a little vacation. Be the boss's secretary for a weekend. Who knows? Those type of things, because there is definitely a factor of choice. Now, as we explore into the history, we'll see that from the beginning of time in history, there is an idea of transgenderism. This has always existed. You see, because it's even documented history, 1500 BC, and we know that it existed even way before that. But as we go through and look into more of this, we'll see that the Egyptian queen was ascended to the throne, and that she liked to wear male clothing and put on a false beard. So we find out that there's different feelings that happened. Mesopotamia, the goddess Ishtar, had the ability to change the sex of priests from male to female, and change them psychologically, and then have them castrated. So these type of things echo in our history. Ishtar and other factors had the ability to change sexuality. In 7th century, Assyrian spent a great deal of time in women's clothing, and was later used to justify overthrowing him. See, many people fear what's different. We even feared left-handed people for a long time. But we definitely fear some of the transsexualism. Now, Marcus Aurelius Antonius Augustus, Roman Empire, he also had some issues. He was known by historians as the transsexual Roman Empire. It was certainly one of the most controversial Roman empires of the time. You see, our friend made it to the throne at the age of 14 in 218 AD. And he replaced the head of the Roman Jupiter with the deity of the high priestess, and changing the official religion of the empire to a women worship type religion. The gender controversy started, wearing wigs, and he took off body hair and wore makeup and beauty creams, and started basically even prostituting himself in the city brothels, because he had this deep feeling of being a woman that he had to act on. He married his chariot driver and became the wife. And history also tells us that married man Zoticus, an athlete, public ceremony in Rome. And he offered half of his empire if he could be turned into a woman. So we find that this feeling of transgenderism echoes throughout history, even in Arabia, where they had transgender women. And basically, in the ideas of Hinduism and Buddhism, it was not a problem. It was just something accepted. And transgenderism in the American Indian, those were thought to be people of power. And in ancient Greece and ancient parts of Rome, they were just accepted. That the choice of whether you were male or female was a mental choice, not so much a physical choice. We can see that there was many different types of transgender issues buried into the history, and that these type of things have happened throughout time. the visualization of a Siberian trans warrior of history. And we must remember that history is written by the powerful and the victors. So sometimes it's twisted by these things. But for certain males, there's a deep feeling inside. A feeling of sexuality. That's not a male sexuality. It doesn't have much to do with the external looking of the body. We're talking about a mental feeling. There's a mental feeling that echoes. And it can produce lots of problems. And that hiding these clothes, etc., is something that happens to so many, as they just feel the shame of not being able to present and be who they are. They don't feel that they have the choice. And one day in our society, people start to wake up, start to understand that choice, that feeling of choice, that you can choose. Throughout history, there was times that you felt like you couldn't. But now, more and more in our society, you can. It's become more and more accepted to become yourself and to recognize that you could choice. You can make choice. You can choose. And in so doing, find maybe yourself. Or maybe after you've tried it for a bit, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it does work. Maybe it doesn't work. That's called choice. We all have it. We all should accept the fact that we are not absolutely mandated to choose one way or the other. We're given a choice, and to make a temporary choice. And sometimes once we do it, we find the true self. Now let's look at transsexualism in the 60s. Back in the 60s, when I grew up, for the most part, it was illegal to pose as a different sex. Let's look at a little documentary about transsexualism done in the 60s.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to see the results of a 6-month psychological project, a research project that took us all over the country. In my office today, I'm Jay Martin. We have 4 contestants in a recent beauty contest. Now, for reasons which will become very clear, we're going to use first names only. Would you please introduce yourselves?
Misty, Vicky,
Sonia,
Simone,
Misty, what do you do?
I'm a bank teller,
Keith?
cosmetician,
Sonia?
hairdresser.
window display.
Now, let me ask you this, Vicky. When you go to business, do you dress in a dress like that or a skirt and sweater? What do you usually wear?
I usually wear a white shirt, tie, sports jacket.
Are those your own eyelashes?
No.
And Sonia, is that your own hair?
No.
That's a very lovely dress, too, that you're wearing, Simone. Where did you buy it?
Oh, I made it myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reason for using first names only for these very, very charming contestants is that right now, each one of them is breaking the law. The contest in which they were runners-up was a masquerade. Actually, in the vernacular, it's called a drag ball. You see, each of our contestants is a man. In just a moment, we'll be back to talk to them individually. Sonia, you were born a male. When did you first notice these female tendencies?
I was 13 years old.
Sonia, do you take female hormones?
Yes, I do.
And what have they done to you?
They have developed my body, and they also develop my bust and slow the growth of the hair in my body.
You say they've developed your bust. Do you wear a brassiere when you work?
No, when I work,
Well, do you ever wear a thin t-shirt?
I wear a shirt or a sweater.
When you wear a sweater, you say that your busts are developed. Is it?
They shows through.
Now, what about dates? You have dates with men. Do you ever have dates with men who don't know that you're a man?
Most of the times they don't.
And what do they do when they find out?
Well, they don't really care.
What about your plans for marriage?
Well, first of all, I intend to have my sex change.
How are you going to do that?
I'll take a trip and certain amount of money and surgery. You go through surgery.
It's very expensive, I understand.
Well, it's a couple of $1,000.
What about your wardrobe? That must cost a lot of money.
My whole salary goes to my wardrobe.
Do you make any of your own clothes?
Sometimes.
All right, let's talk for just a moment about your sex life. Have you ever had a date with a girl?
No.
When you have a date with your boyfriends, what do? You go to movies?
We'll go out dancing. Here and there, you know, everywhere. Eating out, we eat out. Go to movies.
How many times must you go out with a boy before you let him kiss you?
Not much. That same night. You crazy?
It should be obvious to you that you don't lead a normal life in terms with which we're familiar. Would you say that you're a happy, fulfilled person?
Well, I'm very happy, but I'm not quite fulfilled until I get my sex change and become a complete woman. Then I'll be happy completely.
Simone, how old are you?
20.
When did you first discover that you were effeminate?
Well, I think we ought to clear up what's feminine and what's gay.
Well, what's the difference?
Well, a gay person is a boy that is attracted to another boy, or a girl that's attracted to another girl. And feminine, anybody can be feminine. There's lots of married men that have feminine instincts. You know, they have a limp wrist, or they walk a little more feminine than the other man.
Now, Simone, you openly admit that you're a homosexual. What do your parents think about this?
Well, I think my parents really don't know. You could say I live a double life. That on weekends I dress up like a girl, and then when I come home on Sunday afternoons or so, I look like a normal boy in the neighborhood. And I think as long as this happens, my parents don't suspect anything. So I have girls from work I go out with during the week, and the girls do call the house. So
Have you ever had sexual intercourse with a girl?
No.
Have
Girls
you ever...
don't attract me sexually. I like girls that are pretty and all. I like to be seen with pretty people. But sexually, girls just turn me off, I'd say.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have an older brother.
Does he know that you're homosexual?
No.
What do you think he'd do if he found out?
Probably kill me.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
Well, then you're old enough to be drafted.
Yes.
Have you been drafted?
No.
What happened?
Oh, I guess I had a horrible experience when they called me down there. I just stood out from the rest of the people. Minus I didn't want to be drafted, so I just add a little more makeup to my face. And they spotted me. I stood out from the crowd.
Were you dressed as a girl?
No, but I had my hair up. It was combed differently than the rest of the boys. And I had a little makeup on my face. And the guards had caught me at the door, and they escorted me up personally to the main place where we had to be seated. From there on, I was just sent to different psychiatrists.
And what did the psychiatrists ask you?
Well, they asked me, am I happy the way I am? And they asked me, do my parents know? And do I want any help from them? And am I happy? And I answered all their questions.
Now, during the week, when you're at work, you say you do go out with girls. When do you go out with boys?
On the weekends, sometimes during the week, I'd take a day off in the evening, and I'd go to a gay bar in the city, and I'd meet people. Maybe I'd go home with a boy. Every time I go out to a bar, I don't intend to have sex or so.
Well, when you meet somebody at a gay bar, this would tell me that he was probably homosexual. Is that true or not?
Yeah, I only go to gay bars.
Well, do you ever go out with straight people?
I do, and we go to straight bars.
Do you take female hormones?
I started on it.
And what has it done to you?
I put on weight.
How about your breasts?
Oh, they don't start forming for about 2 or 3 weeks, so I couldn't tell you.
When was the first time you went out with a boy?
Well, is this when I was dressed as a boy or as a girl?
Let's say you were dressed as a girl.
Well, it was at a drag ball 2 years ago when I first started going dressed as a girl. And this boy happened to thought I was quite attractive. And he came over to me and started talking and asking me all sorts of questions. And then he asked me to go out after the ball.
So what happened?
Well, we happened to go to a motel where I have dressed that night for the ball. And we started to party.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we both got undressed and he kissed me, I kissed him. We got in bed, pulled the sheets over us, and we started feeling each other.
What happened when he found out you had a...
Well, he knew this before, but he wasn't bothered. He was so hot, you know. And boys like to get the other people, especially pretty ones.
Well, how does he do it?
Well, either I'd go, beep, let's censor that, or he'd, you know,
Where?
me, in my back, or my front.
Your front?
My
Simon, we've determined that you do, in effect, lead a double life. On the weekends, you dress as a woman. During the week, you hold down a full-time job. Are you happy?
Oh, yes, I am.
What would make you even more happy?
If I'd be able to have a change from man to woman.
What does that involve?
First of all, it involves a lot of money. Doctors charge a lot of money for this operation.
Where would you have the operation?
Well, in Casablanca. It starts for about $2,000 and up.
What is the actual surgical procedure?
Oh, it's not castration anymore like they used to do in the olden days, where they'd cut off a man's testicles or so. But nowadays they keep everything on you except they just stick it inside. And this way it's a little better, and it's...
When you say a little better, what does it mean? Could
well,
you have normal sexual
you
relations?
can still have an excitement like you usually do. It might take a little longer, but you still have your excitement. When you're castrated, you have no excitement whatsoever.
Could you have normal sexual relations as a woman?
You could, but you couldn't give birth. That's the only difference.
Would you like to adopt a child?
I don't think I'd want to adopt a child. I think knowing they might be able to change my my body, but not my mind. And I'd always have this little comeback in me, knowing that, gee, I was once a boy and now I have a kid of my own. It wouldn't sound right to me, but I would like to get married.
Simon, you told us earlier that you make a lot of your own dresses. Do you wear anything tight and slinky?
I do at times.
What happens if you're wearing a very tight, slinky satin dress and you see somebody who appeals to you and your maleness becomes apparent?
I try to get rid of it before I put that slinky dress on.
How do you do that?
Oh, there's lots of ways of wearing a heavy-set girdle.
You wear a girdle?
Mm-hmm.
You're a rather tall girl, aren't you?
Yes.
How tall would you say you are?
6 feet.
But you're one of the taller drag queens around.
But I'm one of the more beautiful ones, too, darling.
Simone, do you know any other boys who dress up like girls who are taller than you are?
Oh, yes. I know when it used to be a truck driver. You ought to see her now. She's about 6'2" and a 48 bust.
Would you say that your business, your work, is the sort of work that attracts homosexuals?
Well, a lot of arty fields like dancing, singing, and display work, and different fields that are arty attract a lot of homosexuals to work there. And I happen to know my whole crew is gay.
How do you know that?
Well, we all talk about it, and we're so easy to spot anyhow.
Vicky, you say you're engaged. What does your fiancé do?
He's a photographer.
Is he homosexual or is he straight?
No, he's straight, masculine.
Let me ask you this question. If he's masculine, wouldn't it be more normal for him to go out with a girl?
True, but I'm the nearest thing to a girl, and I'm going for a change, and...
When you say you're going for a change, you're going to have an operation.
Yes.
Now, several of the other people we've interviewed are going to have the operation. Tell me something about it from your standpoint.
Well, it's a step away from loneliness and suicide, because most of the homosexuals and drag queens, they get to a certain age and they don't want to live no more. So I've just about hit that age.
Have you ever felt that you wanted to end your life?
Oh, many times. And I just think about changing to a woman, hoping that would be an escape.
When did you first feel that you were not part of the world around you?
Oh, 14, 15.
Had
High
you been
school.
effeminate in school?
Yes, I was an outsider.
Were you the butt of jokes and barbs from the other children?
Yes.
What would they say?
There goes the fairy, there goes Little Miss Wonder.
And this upset you?
Yes.
Was there anybody in those early days that you could talk to and tell about how you felt?
No, not until just about a year ago. I met people like me. I thought I was the only one. And it's a little easier now.
How did you meet these other people who were like you?
At parties, at balls, drag balls, fairs.
In those early days, would you try to dress up as a woman?
Yes.
I'm talking about when you were 14 and 15.
Yes, I would put on my mother's clothes, run around the house on her heels.
Did she ever catch you?
No.
When was your first homosexual experience?
When I was 15.
And how did that happen?
In a movie, some fella kept on staring at me and staring at me. I seen the picture once, I seen it twice, and I just stood there most of the night, and he was still there, moving slowly but surely next to me. And then the knee started rubbing his knee. I said, "Ooh." And I just
Was
stepped
he young
in.
or old?
No, he was young.
And where did you go with him?
Well, actually, I got panicked, and he had told me to come into the men's room, and I told him, all right, all right. And when he went into the men's room, I looked up at the clock and I said, nah, I gotta get out of here. And I just left. I left him, so that ended that scene.
Well, what was the next time?
Near the rides where I was, they have an amusement park. Some fella, I could just feel the eyes piercing through me. And I turned around and he told me if I like to go on some rides. I told him I don't mind. We went on a few rides, and then he told me if we'd like to go on the bro walk. So I said to myself, well, I'm gonna see what happens. Being that I ran out last time out of the movies, I'm gonna see the next few steps, what happens with another man.
What did happen?
A few things that I guess a girl would do with a fella.
Did he kiss you?
Yes,
Did he touch you?
yes,
Did you touch him?
yes, not right away.
Did he ask you to do things which went against your principles and feelings?
Yes,
Did you do them?
no.
When did you finally go all out with a man?
About 2 weeks later,
Was it the same man?
yes, I met him he told me to meet him in New York.
Was he homosexual?
Yes,
Was he an overt homosexual, or was he married and with children?
well, he had a wife and a daughter, but he was separated from them.
Did you feel happy after having had an experience with him?
Not really, because I felt dirty. I felt like I was trapped in between something that I didn't know what to do about. Either go all the way and try to change. I felt different. I didn't like him after that. I despised him. As a matter of fact, I lived with him for about 9 months, and I despised him every day. But I just did it because I was getting deeper involved, and I just had nothing else to do, so I just let it go.
Did you feel that he was responsible in measure for your turning into a complete homosexual?
Well, yes, but he didn't like me to be very obvious.
Were you passive or active in the relationship?
Well, it was sort of a funny deal.
It was a mutual.
Yes.
And now, Vicki, would you tell us about a normal day in your life? A day during which you conform to society?
Actually, I'm living in two worlds, the female and the male world. As much as I favor the female world, because of a narrow-minded society, I have to conform to conventions. So on my working days, I get dressed as a man because that's what society likes to see, and I do need the money for my operation. So I play the part of a male. But believe me, I don't like it one bit, because I feel like an imposter. It's a good thing for me I live within walking distance for my job. So every morning when I walk to work, I stop and I see girls and I envy them, not because I like them physically, but I admire them for certain things that they're free to do what they like. Me, I have to hide, and I don't feel very right. It's not a normal thing to feel, but that's the way I am. I love to look at windows, especially lingerie windows. I love to see the pretty silks and satins, things I'll be wearing once I get my sex changed. Then I'm just like the other girls. Beautiful and sexy. Then I hope I'll get a chance in life to get the things I really want instead of hide from society in men's clothes. And just to see these things make me tingle, and I know it would make men tingle too, and to see them on me, and especially if I was a woman. Well, it's getting late. I better get to work and get this out of my head now. Oh, brother, I have a customer waiting for me. That's what I get for looking in the windows. Dreams, that's all they are. Who knows? Oh well, maybe this job will help me get this money for this operation. Then I'll be sitting in a chair and someone will be waiting on me in my hair.
Thank you, Vicky. Ladies and gentlemen, during our 6-month research project, we interviewed literally thousands of homosexuals. We ran the gamut from those who betrayed not the slightest trace of effeminate qualities to those like Vicky, who but for a quirk of fate had been born a woman. We know that homosexuality is a psychological aberration to be treated by a competent psychiatrist. But what of those like Vicky who don't want to be treated, who want to be women? Are we to judge?
And now past the 60s, let's take a look and see what happened.
On a hot night in June 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village, New York. But this time, rather than be arrested, the Queens and street kids fought back. The riots that ensued are considered the beginning of the LGBTQ movement in America. But the movement has much deeper roots. 3 years before Stonewall, in August 1966, trans people at Compton's cafeteria in San Francisco also rioted against the police. Late at night, when trans people congregated there, police would routinely harass them in their sanctuary. But on this night, led by trans women and femmes of color, the community resisted. Similar but lesser-known uprisings occurred in Los Angeles at Cooper's Donuts in 1959, and at the Black Cat in 1967, and in Philadelphia at Dewey's Restaurant in 1965. There are probably many other such events yet to be uncovered. They remind us of our courageous history of resisting institutionalized bullying and oppression. In the decades that followed, trans people largely remained in the shadows, quietly contributing to society. Our community was still denied employment, housing, healthcare, and legal protection, essentially the basic right to live. Yet even when they were criminalized by anti-cross-dressing and anti-loitering laws, our transcestors, including Miss Major, Marsha P. Johnson, and Sylvia Rivera, and Flawless Sabrina, survived. They all spent time in jail because they dared to be themselves when our society made it a crime to deviate from gender norms. But time marched forward, and so did they, passing along their survival strategies. And today, trans people are more visible than ever. Though our lives and bodies are sometimes celebrated, we remain more often targeted. In schools, harassment often forces trans students to drop out. Federal and state governments act as bullies too, now rescinding guidance to schools on how to protect trans students and passing harmful laws banning trans people from common restrooms. Epidemics of homelessness, HIV, and incarceration constrain the survival opportunities for trans women of color. The murder rate of trans women of color increases with every passing year. Rather than invest in our survival, the new administration has attempted to both literally and figuratively delete us and has ignored requests to investigate the escalating violence against us. Only 18 states explicitly and comprehensively protect trans people from discrimination. Many other state lawmakers are focused on targeting us for more discrimination. In 2017, lawmakers in 22 states introduced more than 50 bills restricting the rights of trans people. Even as these lawmakers signal that we are not worthy of protection, we persevere. Most of us have already spent years in dark places wrestling with our truths, feeling ashamed of who we are. But when we manage to survive and even to love ourselves, we are stronger than ever. Try as they might, these lawmakers cannot erase us. Our rights will be hard won, but we are winning. Our community is resilient and our history of resistance runs deep. Following in the footsteps of Flawless, Major, Sylvia, Marcia, we fight back the way they did. We take care of each other. We tell our stories, and we demand justice. Join the fight in courts, in state legislatures, in the streets, in the voting booths. Resistance is our birthright, the gift passed on from our elders. We carry the lessons of Cooper's, Stonewall, Compton's, and the many strategies that continue to give us hope and life. We have always existed, and we will continue to fight until we are all safe and free.
Science tells us that gender is certainly not binary. It may not even be a linear spectrum. Like many other facets of identity, it can operate on a broad range of levels and operate outside of many definitions. And it also appears that gender may not be as static as we assume. At the forefront of this, transgender identity is complex. It's unlikely we'll ever be able to attribute it to one neat, contained set of causes, and there is still much to be learned. But we know now that several of those causes are biological. These individuals are not suffering a mental illness or capriciously choosing a different identity. The transgender identity is multidimensional, but it deserves no less recognition or respect than any other facet of humankind. Those weren't my words. Those were the words of Catherine Wu, a graduate student at the Harvard Biological and Biomedical Sciences program, in an October 25th, 2016 article. Now, my opinion and her opinion and the opinion of others are not definitive without the science to back it up, but that statement is backed by a lot of science in the article, which I will link, and it'll be the first one listed below, called Between the Gender Lines, The Science of Transgender Identity. I'm really in shock that there is this myth that there is not a lot of biological evidence or consensus in the community that transgender is quite real, and probably deserves, if not certainly deserves, to be respected as non-disordered, non-choice sort of thing.
So as we see, there definitely is something to the anatomical structures of the brain, that some men can be born with a female brain and some females can be born with a male brain. This sexual preference, cross-sexual preference idea that happens. And this basically can produce people who have a different feeling of sexuality. And they oftentimes do not feel that they can act on it. For me, it was in the mind. But then one day, I decided, wait a minute, why not be who I felt to be? Here's my son, Sterling. Here's Sterling and I. And my whole family then decided to accept me, recognizing that this was who I truly am. And they gave me the freedom to choose. And I tried it, and I liked it, and got deeper and deeper, and I became me. But what if I would have tried it and didn't like it? Well, I should still have the choice. Because the choice of your sexual identity is a big head choice, not a little head choice. And there's too many people thinking with the little head. Too many people thinking with their dicks. We should be thinking these things through with our big head, with the intellect, and with the idea of choice and choosing. Because when we become this, here I am, the queen of the Australian Sydney Gay Pride Parade, and there was 1 million people that followed me when I sang it, here, and it was fun being the queen. Here I am in Mexico at Cocobongo, and traveled the world singing with Desi and the Huns. And I made the choice to become me. And I think that we all need to free up our minds to allow choice. And certain people, it's a bad choice. And we might even have to say, reconsider that choice. And for other people, it's a good choice. But we all can choose. And we should allow people to make these choices for even a temporary time. Why not let people try on the shoes? Why not let them have their weekend party? Why would we even consider that so much different? You see, certain people are living in hell, and for other people we need to let them try something. Let them choose. Let them have the freedom of choice. And let them all be together in this world so that we can all dream and let life never kill that dream. You see, I dreamed this dream and I became this person. And it became me. And I think it was the right choice. All my family, all my friends seem to think so. So I hope that you can understand.
If we accept that sexual reassignment surgery is a human right for those who feel they are another gender, should the government ever foot the bill? If you say no, well, I've got some bad news for you. The government's already paying for it. Last year, the Obama administration eliminated Medicare's ban on sexual reassignment surgery. So, if you're on Medicare, you can now get your sex change paid for by Joe Q taxpayer. And it's not just law-abiding citizens on government health plans that can now get the procedure paid for. In April, a federal judge in California ordered the state to take on the estimated $100,000 tab for a prisoner who's serving time for second-degree murder who applied for sex change surgery. The judge said that the state was violating the inmate's constitutional rights by not providing for it. And this order happened in one of the 9 states that bans insurance companies from excluding coverage for the procedure. The California decision could have wide-ranging implications for America.
Don't look at me. Every day is so wonderful, and suddenly it's hard to breathe. Now and then I get insecure from all the pain. I'm so ashamed. I am beautiful, no matter what they say. Beautiful. to be